Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Future TV Advertising Global 2024. I feel like I've missed a trick a bit. I should do that stand-up comedian thing, shouldn't I, from out back where I go, everyone give it up for Steve Scaffardi. But anyway, I'm here. Look, thank you ever so much for turning up in your numbers for what is our 15th year of the Future of TV Advertising Global. And I can't lie, myself and the team were slightly nervous today about getting you all in, but we are so pleased that we've managed that, and we're looking forward to an incredible couple of days where we discuss, debate, and talk everything around the super TV advertising world. Now, look, I want to get a bit onto the 15-year piece in a minute, but before I do, we cannot put these events on. I feel like I should just record this bit and play it every time I do it, but genuinely mean it. The support that we get from you guys, from the industry, these companies up here allow us to put these amazing events on, to bring these incredible speakers over for us to share in this knowledge and education around this particular sector of the market. And we're doing this increasingly all over the world. This, of course, is our global edition. We've got the biggest event in Canada, in Toronto, the biggest event in Australia for Sydney, and we'll be launching more next year, so watch this space. The important parts, of course, everyone wants to know the Wi-Fi code. There it is up on screen. It's Go Direct. The password is freewheel, capital F, capital W, and then, of course, you can get on and find our agenda. Now, I mentioned from the get-go when I came out that this is our 15th year of this event, and we've had people that have actually been here from day one, and I'm sure there's a few people scattered in the audience today. There is one person I definitely know who's been here since the first day. Some of you, I'm sure, probably know him. He is the man that founded this very event. So I'm going to invite Justin Leber now to see if we can just pick his brain on a few things. So give a warm welcome to Justin, please. Hello, Justin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little embarrassed, but yeah, I'm all right. I just, you know, I can't believe it's been 15 years. The first event was, I think it was about 75 people. Just raise a hand if you were here for that first one in the... Look at that. And I think the thing that surprises me the most is just the loyalty, right? And you keep coming back for more. So I think there's two things with that. I think I always thought that broadcasters would sort it out, fix all the problems.
Well, I was going to say, actually, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you, because when I first joined the company in 2019, Justin said to me, right, what you need to do is you need to find another event to replace the Future TV advertising, because this disruption is going to end pretty soon. So I panicked. I tried to create new events, and here we are now, can, you know, barely now get everyone in this venue. So, I mean,
yeah.
Do you know what you're talking about?
No, that's. I think a lot of people realise that. That's actually a true story. I thought that the sort of the disruption, the threat, and the mystery would be sorted out by that point, but it hasn't happened. I think broadcaster businesses haven't eroded at the pace that perhaps we thought they would be, and the innovation is now coming in, and the new entrants, as you're about to hear, we've got Amazon stage for the first time, which I think is incredible. And they're telling us that they're bringing new advertisers in. So we're going to start talking about how we can all grow the pot. Hopefully, that's the dream anyway. Okay.
Well, look, we're going to find out a lot over the next couple of days in terms of where the industry is going. But I'm going to put you on the spot, and we are recording this. And in 5 years, when we're doing 20 years, and I come back again and say, you don't know what you're talking about, you told me to find another event, what do you think we're going to be in 5 years? You've got 60 seconds.
Well, I'll definitely be cancelled in 5 years. I think that'll be the case. I think that the traditional broadcasters will have a good... I'm pretty bullish about their standing. I still think that they'll have very strong businesses in 5 years' time. I think many of them are probably undervalued. I think you're going to see some consolidation across the market, no doubt about it. And I think we're going to fix some of the problems in the industry. And will we still be here? Will there be that threat? Will that be that mystery? Well, I said we wouldn't be 5 years ago, and so I have to sit here and say I think we will be here in 5 years' time, figuring out how we can all grow this business together.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to crack on then and see what we can find out over the next couple of days. But it's been a great ride for 15 years, and hopefully we are here again in 5 years. But look, let's get this show on the road. You're back on stage a bit later on, of course.
I am, yep.
So look, without further ado, we are going to start session 1, replacing linear reach. And our first session is not particularly looking at 5 years, but we are going to look at the next 3-year horizon. So maybe we'll get some of the answers now, particularly around the sports landscape.
From some of the experts.
From the experts, not me and you, of course.
Yeah.
So look, please give a very warm welcome to Gill Hind.
Cheers, Steve.
Thank you very much for that. And this morning, I'm going to be giving you a 3-year overview of the sports broadcasting landscape. We'll be looking at, firstly, who's going to have the rights? Will anyone be watching? And finally, will the tech companies continue to be as disruptive as they are today? And it works. Apologies, some of the formatting of some of these slides hasn't come through very clearly, but we'll talk through that. So let's focus on Europe. And football is the sport we have to start with. In the UK, TV viewing to football is greater than the next 9 biggest sports combined. Clearly, it's everyone's favourite sport. What we can see here is in the big 5 European markets, so we can see over time the value of live TV rights. And you can see at the top in black the total value, and we can see over a period of heavy growth, they've actually stagnated pretty much since then. And the rights included here are the top domestic leagues and also the Champions and Europa League. If we were to actually put inflation into this, the picture would be even more stark. So why is this? It's not as if people have fallen out of love with the sport. Here we can see in the same 5 European markets the cumulative match day attendances. So a good proxy for fan demand is actually how much people are paying or how much people are going to watch the matches. And we can see that actually last season the cumulative attendance was greater than it was pre-pandemic. And that's actually despite the fact that in France in League One, since this time, actually the number of teams in the top league has gone down from 20 to 18, so that's 74 fewer matches. In Germany, 2 of the best supported teams in Schalke and Hertha Berlin have been relegated. And importantly, last season was the first season that Barcelona's Camp Nou, which is the biggest stadium in Europe, has actually been shut due to renovations. So why have we seen this stagnation of rights? If we can flick it over. Well, actually, this is down to the fact there's less demand from broadcasters, there's less competition. Now, football rights are sold at competitive blind auctions, and obviously, if you want to increase the rights, you need to have a lot of competition there. Well, what we saw back in the sort of 15, 20 years ago, that all the telco companies in Europe, they wanted to get into sports. So we've seen it, for example, in France in 2008 with Orange, and more recently in 2013 with BT over here. And that triggered huge rights inflation across the whole of the European markets. But since then, the telcos have pretty much retrenched from sport, and the incumbents that have, or the new players that have come in, which are DAZN and Amazon, have basically come in and they've either filled the gap of those retreating telcos, or when the pay TV broadcasters have reduced their number of packages. And DAZN and Amazon have actually been really disciplined in their bidding, sort of unlike the telcos were. And Amazon, though, you would expect a full assault, but it's been very tactical. So if we just look at these same 5 European markets and look at the players in there at the moment, and we've got in blue the amount that they were paying last season for rights, and in pink this season. And we can see there has been actually quite a few new deals that have kicked off this season. Apologies for that pun, I would take that kick-off back. There have been quite a few that have come through, which is why there's been some increase. Now you can see that the top financiers are Sky and DAZN. Both companies spend 2 billion euros on football rights just this season, and that excludes all the production costs and all the other sports, of course, that Sky has. And if you can see here, both of them increased their outlay. The reason for them doing that is Sky is actually in Italy. Sky Italia has got the Champions League exclusive, and any football fans out there will know that the Champions and Europa League this season has a vastly expanded format. And also you can see DAZN have actually increased their rights this year, and that's because DAZN has entered the French market, and so it's now in 4 markets. In fact, it's in 1 more of the major markets than Sky, which is in 3, but Sky has the most valuable rights, which you probably can guess is actually the Premier League. So moving on to DAZN. DAZN has now actually got a very consistent distribution strategy. It's secured carriage on all the telcos and all the pay TV platforms. It's also launched broadcast channels alongside its flagship streaming service. And crucially, this has been a huge pivot for DAZN. DAZN entered championing itself as sort of the Netflix of sports and was a direct-to-consumer sports streaming service. However, take-up was pretty low. So what it had to do, it had to get that carriage and distribution on these platforms. And this gives it as wide a reach as it possibly can, the more reliable broadcast infrastructure, and of course it makes this a better sort of financial business model for itself. Moving on to the big two pay TV platforms of Sky and Canal+, we can see that they've both secured valuable extensions to some of their contracts recently, meaning their businesses are secure for the medium term. At the top up here, we've got Sky in the UK, and you can see that Sky is pretty much tied up football rights to 28-29. It's got Formula 1 to at the end of 29, and it's also got some key English cricket rights and tennis rights to 2028. In France, we can see that Canal+ actually doesn't have League One rights. It used to. It's always traditionally been the broadcaster for League One. But about a couple of rights cycles ago, League One sold the rights to MediaPro for a vastly inflated price, and then on to Amazon. So instead, Canal+ has switched and moved over to the Champions League, getting all the Champions League rights and actually saving money in so doing. And of course, Canal+ has DAZN on its platform. So now if you want to watch League One, you'll do it. You can still do it on the Canal+ platform. And in addition to that, to the end of the decade, pretty much, it's got Top 14 rugby, which is absolutely huge in France, and Formula 1 and MotoGP. So looking at Sky, so Sky has not only extended these rights, and this is again looking at the UK, but actually Sky in its new deals has increased the amount of coverage and number of matches that it carries. Following its WSL deal, or the Women's Super League deal that was completed in October time, you'll actually find that next season, Sky will have nearly quadruple the amount of matches that it carried last season. And so how can it carry all these sports? Well, quite simply, it's launched something else. It's launched Sky Sports Plus, which is a new channel which carries sort of live concurrent streams of lots of different EFL or championship games. It's available for all Sky Sports subscribers on TV, but also available on the Sky Sports app. And this has been hugely popular. So far this season, Sky's actually had record audience reaches. So we've sort of talked about sort of the fact that a lot of these major rights are behind a pay TV wall. But that's not to say that free-to-air TV isn't important. It's incredibly important. The UK is one of the few markets, or one of the several markets around the world that has what we call a listed events regime. And what that means is that some events that are deemed of national importance have to be shown free-to-air. In the UK, it's on the PSBs. And this ensures they have as wide a reach as possible. This isn't a definitive list of the countries nor the sports, but it gives you a sort of a good idea of the breadth. And what you can see is that some of the major sports, such as the Olympics and the big international football competitions, are all available free to air. So what does that mean for audiences? Well, unsurprisingly, these big free-to-air platforms have huge reach. In the UK, over the last 2 or 3 years, the top 500 most viewed sports programmes, 99% of those have actually been free to air. Now in the UK, of course, we've got the BBC, which doesn't carry advertising and unsurprisingly actually carries the majority of these. But you can still see that there are 166 of these top 500 programmes are available free to air on Channel 4 or ITV. It also probably doesn't take a genius to understand that actually, if you're looking at ITV, the biggest 3 programmes are all England football matches when they happen to do quite well in the Euros or the World Cup. Audience to those matches averaged 12.5 million. Huge numbers. But it's not just these sort of occasional football tournaments that actually have good high TV viewing. There's been a sort of a widespread misconception, you'll see it everywhere in the press, that people no longer watch sport on television. That's just simply not true. If you can see here, between 2023 and 2015, actually the sports viewing has held up remarkably well in blue for all individuals. It's just very marginally down, whereas the whole of TV is about 23% down. Now, admittedly, for younger audiences under 35s, it has declined by about 23%, but that's significantly less than it is for all TV. So it's sort of simply not true to say that young people don't watch television or don't watch sport anymore. In fact, in 2023, for the under 35s, there was a nearly 1 billion hours of sports programs viewed on television. And that is the same figure as it was in 2019, which, if you consider the rise of TikTok and YouTube and everything, is quite phenomenal. And not only are people watching sport, they're also paying to watch sport. Here we've got the household reach of the Sky Sports and BT or now TNT sports channels. And you can see that they're nearly at record reaches in this 12-month rolling reach here. And actually, that doesn't carry all the stuff. If you think about Sky Sports, it has so much sports activity on YouTube, Snap, and wherever. And this excludes all of that. And actually, on YouTube trending in the UK, Sky Sports has, on average for the last 3 years, had 1,500 videos included on it. So a huge amount of viewing that's outside traditional television. And we can see not only has it got sort of record reach, we can see that it's broken quite a few records. What we've shown here is just looking at the average audience to Premier League matches. Last season, highest ever. Of course, the Premier League goes back a few years, and we haven't shown it back, but I can assure you that everything below that was smaller than this. It's also had the highest paywall things in terms of the cricket in the recent or last summer's Ashes. So there's still a lot of people watching television sport. But the US market is very different. In the UK and across Europe, we've seen most of premium sports actually behind a paywall. But in the US, they have a very, very diverse distribution strategy. We've got the major sports down here. We've got NFL, we've got NBA, and we've got the Major League Baseball. And then we can see where the rights are held for the national televised games. In blue, we've got sort of the old-fashioned broadcasters, the ABCs of the world. And there's sort of the mustard yellow, the cable companies, or sort of a pay TV equivalents in ESPN. And then we've got the tech companies in pink. And as you can see, for the major sports, distribution is everywhere. They have got 1 foot in the past with the broadcasters, 1 foot in the present with the likes of ESPN, and 1 foot in the future with the tech companies. And the tech companies are now entering sports. Admittedly, Amazon's been there since 2017, but in 2022, which is much more recently, we've seen Apple have come in with Major League Baseball, and YouTube have taken some of the NFL Sunday Ticket. But this year, we're about to see Netflix hosting the NFL Christmas games. And of course, they've now got their WWE weekly show. I would argue that that's not a sport, but apparently it is. And so what we've seen is the investment has been very, very varied. They focus mainly on US sports, and actually they're trying to go for a different type of strategy. Sports has traditionally been licensed territory by territory, but these tech companies want to try and do global deals instead. And why have they come into it? Well, one of the reasons is they want to fuel their burgeoning ad tech platforms. Within sport, people are used to watching ads in sport, and even on sort of the likes of Netflix, the non-ad tiers, and in Apple, etc., with non-ad tiers, they still will carry sports advertising. In fact, Amazon Prime apparently launched earlier this year for Amazon Prime ads. If anyone's watched sport, Amazon Prime has always shown ads within their sports broadcasts. And you've got to think about that, actually, they're the American companies, and they're coming in, and American sports are very different from those we get in Europe. In fact, they're sort of made for adverts. They have quarters rather than halves, and their constant timeouts mean you can get a huge amount more inventory than you can, say, in a European football match. How they've entered the market, they've got very different monetizations and sports strategies. We've got Amazon on the bottom left. And Amazon are being really opportunistic and selective in what they're doing. So in the US, you can see they've got NBA, they've got weekly games on the NBA and Thursday night football. And we can see it across Europe. They've now got weekly I think it's a Tuesday night first pick Champions League game in most of the markets. And interestingly, these are all bundled in with that Amazon Prime subscription. They did try in France when they were sort of awarded or pretty much given the League One rights in the last cycle or so. They did try a League One pass, but they've never really said how successful it was, but tellingly, they're not back in the market for it this year. And then we've got Apple and Netflix, and they're very much looking at very long-term global deals. And they've got sort of slightly distribution strategies as well. Apple, for example, has got the MLS, which is soccer, for those of you that don't know. Slightly strange in as much as every single player has got the Apple logo on its T-shirt. You just can't imagine that in people running around in the Premier League having that on. And what they don't have, which is normal in the US, there's no sort of blackouts for local games. Netflix, their WWE deal, long 10-year deal. They've got the right to extend it for 10 years, but they've also got the right to cut it short after 5. Finally, a recent trend is the launch of direct-to-consumer streaming services. So we've seen that in the likes of Formula One TV, or in fact in the UK, you can watch Serie A games. So you might argue, are these guys going to come and try in and take out the middleman of the broadcasters? And our answer to that is no, they're not going to do that. And the reason they're not is actually broadcasters can monetize these rights far more effectively. For example, the broadcasters don't just appeal to super fans of one sport, they'll appeal to fans of general sports. Not surprisingly, if you watch the Premier League, you're likely to watch the AFL, you probably watch cricket, and you probably watch Formula One as well. And that means they've got a much larger addressable market to hit. In addition, of course, these broadcasters, these pay TV platforms, they can sell other things alongside that. They've got the entertainment packages, and of course they can sell other third-party subscriptions or telecoms players, making it much, much more sticky. And actually, if you think about it, leagues don't have any facility. They don't know how to market directly to consumers. They've never done anything subscription-wise. Very different proposition. So I'll leave you with 3 final takeaways. Pay TV's pretty much tied down the rights for the next 3 years, which is the time frame I was conveniently given. Sports viewing is pretty resilient, even amongst younger people. And you're right, tech platforms are going to want to come in to fuel their ad sales, but it's going to be a sort of slow process. Thank you very much.